Brother, are you all right?
No, I am not all right. I just shared a bottle of Kanar with Damar. That rhymes.
You're drunk.
Of course I'm drunk.
And a few key people.
Well, and that's the thing, is you have a lot of centralization there. You have a lot of... You can bite off more than you can chew. That is true of anyone in any way, shape, or form. You can definitely try to take too much and not be able to handle it. That's what happened with the Empire. There was a chance that they could have actually been able to manage things had they had better and actual appropriate administrative capability. And also, by not fucking demanding it onto the people. If you force shit onto a whole group of disparate people without knowing what the fuck is going on, or about any of the cultural differences or anything, you're gonna have a fucking nightmare of a time keeping shit just civil, let alone progressing and actually able to handle it without having to use a heavy-handed fist in response to just about everything. I mean, real world example here. Look at what happened in the Middle East after World War I and leading up to and through World War II and even to this day. You had a major misevaluation from the Allies. You had a major misunderstanding of what was going on. The Ottoman Empire was actually able to keep relative peace because they had their own internal administrative delineations based on the cultural groups. The Kurds had their area, the Palestinians had their areas. They actually let the people more or less determine what groups are going to be where, and you have your level of self-governance within that group that you are okay with, you are comfortable with. But we're over top of it all. Ultimately, we have say, but we'll work with you a bit there. But then after World War I, the Ottoman Empire fell, and then you have people from Central and Western Europe looking at it as like, okay, now how are we going to deal with this? You know what? This looks like a good border. This looks like a good border. This looks like a good shape, without having a fucking clue about the cultural and political impacts and conversations and issues between all the different ethnicities within that larger area. And now we get an area that is prone to bickering and fighting because you have a bunch of disparate people being forced together that didn't want to be together in the first place.
And mind you, all that under a military lead. Not people who actually do want to do something productive for the countries, but people who would rather try to seek more power.
Yeah.
And then things go to shit.
Yeah, you get that whole... And that's it there. That search and thirst and wanting to gather, cultivate, and hold power almost to the point of having a stranglehold on it, which ultimately backfires. You can hold on to something so hard that you actually end up forcing it away from you. The great visual analogy, put a thing of silly putty in the middle of your hand and then just start squeezing. Now what happens? In the end, that silly putty is going to squeeze out all over. It doesn't matter how hard you squeeze, how hard you hold on to it, some of it is going to get away. And you're going to have a huge fucking mess on your hands. Literally.
Yep. But looking at something like the Empire in Star Wars, all of it essentially was militaristic in how it controlled the worlds. Your world wasn't really good for anything apart from the resources that you could produce. Resources that were of the more practical kind and not so much the esoterical kind. Which meant that, okay, you can produce weapons, you can produce materials, you can produce food, you can produce more soldiers. You have environments that we can use to train those soldiers. Kind of like another empire, actually, come to think of it.
I was kind of getting that vibe from it, that there is one empire in particular that, again, trying to use the heavy-handed tactics to keep control of everything, and it not exactly working. And that realm has multiple tiers of it, because you have it happening at the local level in the cities, in everything at that level, and then you have it on a planet-wide scale, and then you have it happening galactically.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Yes, very, very much.
Sorry I'm late, but you know how work goes, Jared.
Oh, more so than most want to admit.
Oh, my relief decided to call me 5 minutes before he's there. By the way, I'll be late because the police are blocking us in because they're raiding somebody else's apartment.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
And speaking of things being handled with a heavy hand...
What are we talking about, Peter again?
Oh...
I mean, Aussie Baller? I mean, whatever.
He's just some Aussie bastard out there. But no, not sure how much you were listening in on is... What even started the conversation there, Leon? Because I will admit to, and I will apologize to everyone, yeah, you did come in the middle of it, but you know what? These are the kinds of conversations that happen. Just fucking deal with it.
We were going into... we were talking about the Force powers, and then getting into, the Galactic Hypernet, and essentially the way that Star Wars could actually, without fucking shit up, progress forward. Because of one of the things that they had while the Republic was still in place was the Galactic Hypernet, and it working at least somewhat well. After that, people didn't have as much, not as much control over the stuff they actually got hold of, and certainly not as much information, which led to things such as our friend the Mandalorian not having any fucking clue about anything really that was outside of his work very much. He didn't really know anything about the Jedi. He didn't really know anything about the galaxy at large, apart from the things that were concerning him. And from that, it went into why the Galactic Empire, why they failed, as in they were trying to centralize it too much. It was essentially all just Palpy, and then you had some Grand Admirals and other generals all over the place. And then I think that you started to scream.
No,
I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah, and it actually has... I brought in that historical parallel with the handling of the Ottoman Empire and what is the Middle East post World War I, and how those issues have just exacerbated. We don't really give a shit that your group of people have a blood feud with this group of people. You're all in the same nation now. Figure it out.
You all look the same to us anyway.
You mean it's like randomly drawing lines on a map?
Yeah, it doesn't work out well. And with
come on.
At least there's no trapezoids in the Middle East. I'll have to give them that.
There's a few there are a few that are pretty fucking close, though.
They did try.
Yeah, but they didn't quite literally put a ruler on a map and draw straight lines.
You know, when you're trying to divide up a very sparsely populated middle of a continent without many major geographical features, taking a ruler to what you have for a map is really simple.
But can't you at least be somewhat drunk while doing it so you don't have a straight line?
Oh, look at Iowa. Look at Missouri. Look at Oklahoma. That southern border is the Red River. Never mind.
Look at Idaho. Idaho-Montana border. That's a good one.
Mountain range.
Yes, but they divided it on one mountain range and left the other one alone.
Yeah, that's the drunken bit of it.
But then you have shit like Wyoming.
Or Colorado. Or
Mexico.
or New Mexico. You know what? I would even throw Arizona in there because, again, the southern border is a geographical one. It is a geologic one, not just purely drawn on the map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about the southern border or the western one?
Southern. Or
Hold on. I'm getting Google up.
let's take a look here. Oh no, the western border is because of the river.
Because, I mean, it does make it really easy just to calculate land area. But it's a box.
Yeah, but then you have New Mexico. Short of the two rivers that make up half of the northern border, all of the eastern border, and the southern border of Texas, everything that's not river-based is a straight fucking line. Same thing with Kansas and Nebraska, the Dakotas. Yeah.
Shall we
But
talk
just
about
feels-
the normality that is Michigan?
Hey, you leave the mitten alone.
I
The
wouldn't
mitten
really...
with the oven mitt missing its digits.
You see, one thing here, though, when you look at Lake Michigan, and just... that's cool. Yeah, all the fucking lakes there. Look at the shape of those.
Looks like a palm tree. They really
and then
want.
go over
They
to
really wanted to
Nordic
confuse
countries.
people.
But look at the shape of those, and then go over to the Nordic countries.
Yeah, it's not.
Scroll up a bit. Scroll out. And now look at Sweden, Norway, and Finland.
Yeah. That tends to happen when you have glaciers dictating the geography, and the actual topography of an area.
You know what would be nice of Google to include?
Huh.
A proper measuring tool.
Besides that,
The undersea
Actual,
portion.
yeah, the depths, so you can actually see Doggerland and all that fun stuff.
Well, so in order to see that, you actually have to go over to Google Earth and the
Yeah, I
actual
know.
standalone program, which is a fucking massive
Resource hog.
Not just resource hog. The thing takes up a massive amount of storage space too.
Oh, I know. I have it on here.
One
So
thing
do
you can
I.
actually do now, though, if you click on layers, you can select terrain.
But does it do the undersea portion? That's the question. Google
Sadly,
Earth
no,
does.
not
Yeah.
yet.
Google Earth
Yeah.
does, but actually, if you do the satellite one, they might throw the undersea topography there.
It shows the pictures of it, but not the actual topography, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's closer to what Jay would want to see, but not exactly. All
Yeah.
right.
Sadly, yeah.
But so, yes, we have not done an appropriate or actual introduction to the stream, and we've only been going for a little over 15 minutes now. Yay.
But we had a plan for today? What?
We actually have a topic that it actually has been quite a challenging one too, and rather interesting because there are details that, even though we've had a fucking week to figure it out and work on it, myself and Leon have admitted to each other that there is a detail that neither of us have been able to come up with. Now, his detail is different than mine. But for those who don't remember, last week Leon brought up the idea and brought up the question. If you
Well,
could...
the week before that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because I was...
Yeah.
That was
We
a
won't
shit
discuss
show.
2 weeks
last
ago
week.
now. 2 weeks ago now. All right, yeah. See, that's how fucking busy I've been. I lose track of time. I can remember what I did, but it doesn't click in that, oh yeah, it's been that long because I've done all this shit in between. But But anyways, the question was raised last time we were on air. If you could bring any book, story, or written material to the screen, be it movie, TV show, whatever, you are making that media change that has not been done before, which would you pick, and who would you pick as the leading actor? Who would you pick to go with the main role?
Oh, okay. I have an idea. There were talks about this one being done, but I've yet to see any actual physical media anywhere about it.
Now, seeing as how it has not actually been put to media, that does count. And I will even...
Oh, no, it's a book series, but I mean, as far as like any other form of media, visual...
Yeah. Well, no, that's what I'm saying, is that if it... Like, say it was a novel and someone did a graphic novel or novella or even an actual comic book of it, that would still be eligible. We are going from print material of any kind to visual material. That is the caveat. That is the restriction. It can... The product that... The story that you pick cannot have had that transition happen. So it ends up giving quite a few options. Now, this is where I will disagree with S2000 GT out there. He says, no one reads books. Okay, I will give you this, that yes, there are a lot of people who don't actually read the books anymore. I tend to be one of those that I prefer having the actual book in my hand. I don't really like e-readers. However, with how busy I tend to be, audiobooks are fucking phenomenal.
All right, so here I got a nice little image of my preferred choice here. Hopefully it'll work, but
let's go for it, because I gave a hint last time we were on air, and I have not told anyone which it is.
I think you could condense each one of these books down to a 2 or 2.5 hour long movie each.
Interesting. I am not familiar with this series.
Okay, this is actually quite good series. It takes place around early 2000s. Just when Bluetooth and cellular phones combination, so maybe late 2000s, early 2000 teens. And it basically tales around Nicholas Flamel, obviously, his wife, John Dee, the doctor to Queen Elizabeth, Machiavelli, and loose terms here, the gods.
Okay.
And two teenage twins that are... Yeah, it's quite a good series. I love... I have them in physical form, but I also have them on e-readers too. So that way, if I want to read it, you know, I can just pick up my e-reader if my books are packed away like they are right now. But trying to think of who I would want to play Nicholas Flamel, kind of has to be able to pass off a good French accent.
Okay, so Steve Martin is in the running.
Possibly. But I was thinking of doing a Brit for it too. I don't know, you know, French, British, they're all the same, really.
Especially if you're going with the name John Luke.
Something like that, yeah. But for John Dee, the main antagonist, or at least main human antagonist in this, I would want to use oh god, wait, can't I think of his name now? Give me a second. Have to do my Google foo on IMDb really quick.
Well, and I will admit now, picking the actor for the lead character of my choice has been the issue that I have not been able to figure out, because I've been thinking there are a number of actors who have the chops that I could actually see portraying the role and actually doing a damn good job. A couple of them actually underrated actors, but it's a question of having that skill, but also the look.
Just gotta. Oh yeah, this person is perfect. Don't know why I had a hard time thinking of his name, but the description of John D. almost describes this picture of
Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley to a T. Just got to grow out the goatee a little bit more, so it's a little bit of a point, for the Elizabethan age. But
that
I think he could pull that off, and maybe it may be like a Carrie Ellis for Flamel, because Flamel starts off looking a little younger, but ages as he goes on,
Well, and that's the thing, is part of it is with the acting choices, it can be at any age of the actor. And so you could even start off with Carrie Ells, say, circa Princess Bride.
Which I've never watched.
Oh, weird.
We even own it, and I have not watched it yet.
Oh, wow. That is one of those movies that it deserves to be watched. It is.
Oh, I understand. It's just timing hasn't happened right.
It's a classic in its own right. See, that's the thing. If something is important enough, you make the time.
Oh, it is. It's just not quite the time yet. Trust me, I've been trying to get on this for like the last month. We own this. Why aren't we watching this?
Well, if you are active on the server next week, perhaps you might have a chance to watch it.
I don't know. I hear paint dry is a good option.
Only if people actually vote for it, which I still do not understand why people can't understand. If you vote for it, we will watch it. I'm being very specific with what we're actually voting for. The rules are set up in a, well, oftentimes at least, easy to read way. And people still don't read them. People still vote for shit that they think is just a joke. It is not.
Yeah, if we put the option there, if it gets the votes, it's getting watched.
Including Saving Ryan's Privates.
And you wonder why I didn't vote for that one.
Well, see, that's the thing that people don't realize, is that we're not hiding this shit. We're not blowing smoke up anyone's ass. When we say, hey, this is what we're thinking, this is what we're planning, these are your options, that is directly what we mean. And yes, there will be joke ones in there to kind of funnel people towards the more appropriate choices. But if people vote for the fucking joke, don't complain to us when that's what's played. Oh, God, there is such a great political analogy there, too. Because, you know what? Yes, bitch and moan and complain about the results of whatever election it was. But just remember, you voted for it. The one that comes to mind was actually Brexit. Because you had people quite literally say, well, I voted for it, not even thinking that it could win, so I was just like, screw it, I'll vote for it. And then it won, and now, what the fuck?
I didn't want this.
This isn't what I wanted. Well, it's what you fucking voted for. You even admitted that you voted for it. So,
Yep.
It just really goes to show the lack of forethought and lack of actual critical thinking that's out there. And it's presenting in so many different ways. It's gone beyond comical to just sad. But enough of that diatribe. So we do have that. Oh, well, wait, Jay.
Yeah.
So you would do it almost a la the Star Wars movies so far, where you take each book and turn it into its own standalone movie, but still connected. So you would actually have a double trilogy.
Yes, even though it's actually what's it, a sextuplet
Yeah, but if
series.
yeah,
It's not books 1 through 3 and then books 4 through 5 or 4 through 6. Is literally 1 through 6 is one whole giant story.
well, yeah, well, that's similar to the actual progression of everything with the Dune saga. Is it's Frank's section starts with Dune, then goes through Dune Messiah, and it is a linear, direct progression. There's just gaps in between each book. So you're going from major section to major section to major section. So you're not actually bogged down with a couple centuries of mundane day-to-day existence.
Yeah, see the problem with this book series is it is basically a week and a half, 2 weeks, I think, long in timeline, like in linear time.
For the entire series?
Oh yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, it's more fantasy than sci-fi per se, but there is enough mixing of technology and science in with the mysticism of it that makes it border on that edge of kind of like Star Wars can be bordered on sci-fi and science fantasy and just pure fantasy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that Venn diagram where kind of just a little bit of each. So.
Which isn't a bad thing. It actually takes a lot of skill to write something that blurs the lines like that effectively and in a way that's
it's got
still
vampires
enjoyable.
in it.
Is
Okay,
it the
then.
sparkly kind?
No, not the sparkly
Or
kind. The kind that that are ninja assassins that basically it takes the world of gods, condenses them down to make them corporeal to an extent, and yet allows them to still intermix with humans.
So
we're just mud people, pretty much, is what we are.
So the vampires are more akin to the presentation in True Blood.
Yes. Yes.
Are they furry? And
No,
while
they
they're
are
trying
not
to
furry.
assassinate people, they talk to themselves.
They are more. They learned from the higher up gods that are older than them, and then they branched out into. And you only see 2 of them, but still.
I'm more thinking about the other small bloodsuckers that try to assassinate people at times, and the higher level ones of the assassins can actually do things without calling out what they're trying to do out loud.
I'll let you guys read the books. I'll be right back. The wife needs me for a second.
Hopefully not to read through the books.
I don't know. There are times the words are a bit too complex, which actually reminds me, I really need to find a way to set the time aside to continue a project I started. I actually started a couple years ago, rereading through the Dune saga, including the additions that Brian Anderson and Brian Herbert added in to actually create a timeline of the material that they actually put in the books, starting all the way back with the Butler and Jihad era, through the House trilogies, then through the actual 7 books, and then picking up with how they finished it off in books 7 and 8. But I got sidetracked with the life.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I realized after going through is that I could really get into the minutia of what character was doing what when, and holy fuck is that quite the history to go through and craft, which just gives even more credit to just how expansive of a universe Frank crafted when he started writing it. And all the notes that he put out that actually built up an actual legitimate fully fleshed out universe that had its nuances, that has all its political intrigue and changes, and just that full complete creation of an alternate reality that you could pull stories from, because you could end up ignoring the main bloodline that you follow through that saga and pick a random character and end up having enough of a story that could be told and written that actually is enjoyable and makes sense.
It kind of reminds me of, I can't remember if it was Major Grin. One of them, they were talking to, was it Berman? It was one of the people working on the original TOS. And they were saying that, yeah, Roddenberry would come in and he would complain because here they're using deflectors, but that's not the deflector, that's the shield. The deflector is the thing in the front of the ship that just deflects things in the path of it, and so on and so forth. And they were going through that, yeah, to him, this ship existed. This was something real. This isn't just a piece of imaginary equipment. This is something where it works this way by doing this and doing this. That's essentially what you have with Dune.
Yeah.
It's not just something thrown together. It's an entire world.
Yeah, and it's interesting the visual actual spark for it that it was. Like, a lot of people want to point towards the Middle East, and it wasn't the Middle East. It wasn't North Africa that actually gave them the spark that ultimately became Arrakis. It was the eastern half of fucking Washington State.
I can't imagine why. So it technically is classified as a fantasy thriller, young adult fiction, but when you read it, you can understand, like, they often reference, what seems like magic to us is actually science for other people, type of thing.
Which is true. If you have a sufficient enough advanced technology, it would seem like magic to the uninformed and uneducated.
Except for programming. Because that shit is just magic and people who do it just hope that it actually works.
So here are some of the characters that, besides Nicholas Flamel and John Dee and his Purnell Flamel, you have Sekek, the Irish of Irish mythology. You have Hecate, Prometheus, the Witch of Endor, which is a part of the Hebrew Bible. Gilgamesh, Bastet, Odin, Shakespeare, Joan of Arc, Billy the Kid, Virginia Dare, the Count of Saint Germain, and the Roman god of war, Mars. Just to name
Apophis?
a few. I'm sorry?
Apophis?
Mars Ultor.
No, more mean if Apophis isn't there, they might be heading to more trouble.
Again, are they really gods, or are they just snakes inside people's heads?
Sometimes there's snakes without being snakes in someone's head, but that's a discussion for another day. And then they eat rats.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about Tasty right now? Oh,
It's
we're
not
not talking about Bill
Tasty.
Snipes? Bill Snipes? Okay.
No, that conversation is going to be in a couple hours.
It's going to be fun, that too.
Yeah, I wonder how he's fitting into shipboard life. I mean, I saw he had a nice cut on his forehead. So, what are you thinking, Jay? Middle or bottom bunk?
Oh, he's probably, if he's the new guy, he's probably got the bottom. Well, I always wanted the bottom, so I would assume he's probably middle or top. And the top with the open piping above him.
Or did it just get stuck in some pipes and fell?
Well, as long as he didn't have his arm hooked over it, he should be fine.
I mean,
Yeah. It's still the medic,
not like
though.
it's not like he got it walked through a watertight door on a submarine.
You know, he might have. Ooh, we're gonna have to see if he's gonna be on, because I want to know how that happened. Because there's a number of ways for a newbie on a ship to smack their head on something and cut themselves open,
Or it's something completely unrelated.
which would not surprise me with him. Which is why I am immensely curious to the story that goes with it, because every injury of that size, there's some story that goes with it. There's gotta be.
My bet is he was drunk and one of his roommates caught on to what I was doing that one day, and made sure that he got a copy of one of the alarm sounds and played it while he was passed out.
Oh, that would be glorious, though.
Well, he didn't tell us to fuck off when he posted the picture, so that is still a possibility. I'm just putting it kind of low on the possibility list.
Which room are we in for that one? Image dump or basic chat?
Just search for him otherwise.
Yeah, I forget which channel he posted it in, but yeah. Kid is going to have some good stories at the rate he is going.
The question is, will he actually remember them?
Maybe a third of them. Because he's not going to be drunk the entire time.
Hopefully.
I see he's still rocking the BCs.
Yeah, he seems like that type too.
As long as he's actually doing it without getting himself too hurt.
True. This is true. But,
Because
go for it.
I'm just thinking back to the things that we know so far. And too hurt might be one of those things that... yeah, it could happen. I hope it doesn't, but it is tasty.
This is very true. But there are other stories that we could actually get into at this point. So, what has been your choice, Leon? Which story have you been mulling about?
Do you want to know both? And I can just go in depth on the one that I chose in the end.
Go for it.
Let's see, how do I... I fucking hate the sharing function of this shit. Okay. Let's see. Is it sharing now? Oh.
There
yes,
it is.
Yes, it is.
There it is.
Okay. So, this was actually the one that I started thinking about.
So Aliens versus Predator.
This is actually worse than that.
It's closer to Starship Troopers, but in a parody way.
I know.
I'm not even sure if it's a parody way, because this is way more psychological and just looking into Phoenix here and how he actually got into into the position where he is, with the bugs, with everything happening around there. And just going over it, I was thinking De Niro.
A young De Niro. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Young De Niro as young Phoenix, as in when he's actually still in the Corps, when everything's happening, when he's getting his fucking suit pressure tested, everything like that. And then, once he's actually, well, spoilers, once he's down in a plant and everything, older De Niro, having a bit more issue later on in the story, actually getting back in the suit, he's seeming like just, the town drunk, someone that, oh yeah, maybe he got some more money, maybe he got, an inheritance, maybe he won the lottery, whatever the fuck. Someone that you wouldn't really take seriously if they were walking down the street just dead drunk. And I think that would actually work out for that one. But since that isn't actually the main one, we have Elijah Bailey and R. Daniil Oliwell. The two main characters, apart from... I can't remember the name of the last robot. The one that actually created the 0th law of robotics. But the two of these here, though, I would want Elijah Bailey to be Rowan Atkinson. A slightly younger Rowan Atkinson, but being serious to a point, but not being so serious that it's just dour.
By younger, are you meaning like Blackadder younger or beginning of Mr. Bean younger?
I'd say around about Blackadder, say the 30s. The 30s almost into his 40s.
Okay.
Getting into actually being a good detective. Not being able to take it too seriously, because he's not that serious of a character, Elijah Bailey that is. But being serious enough, or having a serious enough outlook, that he's still actually being taken seriously. And that's something where I was thinking, what's his fucking phrase? Peter Falk first.
Oh, Columbo.
But I think that he would be too... people wouldn't be able to take him seriously enough. He doesn't have the serious enough outlook on the way that he does things. But I think that Rowan Atkinson, part of, the being British, actually being well-spoken, having that kind of actual detective attitude, or being able to portray it, and at the same time having that streak of not being too serious. He's not like a serious or a serious drama actor in that sense. Him for Elijah Bailey in either Robert Patrick or Peter Weller for R. Daniil Oliwell. And I'm not really sure, because Daniil has a long history. As in, his history lasts, over 1,000 years? A couple of 1,000 years? Going from the events here in the Caves of Steel, etc., all up until the events of the Foundation Part 2, I think it is. At which point, the Earth doesn't really exist anymore in the way that we know it now. At that point in time, no one actually knows where the Earth is. The entire book there is based on having to actually find the Earth. So Daniil would have to be someone who is somewhat timeless, as in, say that you have Robert Patrick, he would work when he's younger at least. But I think that Peter Weller would work better overall and just be the same. Slightly stilted at first, slightly robotic at first still, despite being a humanoid or more human robot. And then towards the end, actually having grasped his own humanity, getting to the point where he is emotionally and personally a human.
He's just not a biological one. Huh.
Yeah. And this is something where the events that take place in these different ones, with what's going on, there's even one story with I can't remember if Elijah Bailey was in that one. I'm going to say it probably was. I can't remember it exactly now. But there's a ship with its bases, as in people not on Earth at the time, and people actually having access to robotics, etc. And among them, there were two mathematicians. One being only about 100 years old, which to them is still a mere child, and one being almost 400 years old, really old by their standards and soon dying. And there was a dispute about a mathematical question. And the question was some kind of fucking equation. But the dispute was the older one says that the younger one was trying to grab his equation and then pose that. And the younger one is saying the same thing in reverse. It's just a classical crime story. Nothing really that you would need to make a full movie about. But it's something that, in an entire series of books, it could be an episode of a show. The other books here, you can make them into an actual movie. You can make it showing the way that Earth in this time does not allow robots. Or they don't allow robots in cities. They are very peculiar about what they actually allow. The other colonies, the spaces, etc., some of them have evolved to a point where you can barely recognize them as human anymore. Some of them are entirely reliant on robotics. Some of them just decide that, yeah, you know what, we're going to cut our ties with all the rest of the shit. And it opens up for so many different possibilities while set in the same universe.
And especially the way it leads into the Foundation series, too.
Yep. It opens up for an entire franchise of things. And I would be okay with that.
You know, and I think that's part of where we ended up starting to have the discussion. I even made the comment off air that it is sad. It is immensely depressing that you will have all of the studios, all of the media producers that is collectively known as Hollywood, that just keep recycling the same stories, the same source material over and over and over with just subtle variations to where if you're not paying attention, you won't recognize it as, oh, they're doing a Romeo and Juliet story again. Oh, they're redoing this from Shakespeare. Oh, they're redoing this from this mythology. Or they don't recognize where the actual material is coming from. But it's the same stories over and over because they sell. They actually get a return on the investment. You have less branching out to original stories and different stories lately, especially the last 15, 20 years. But then with like Asimov, with everything he has with that trilogy and the way it leads into the Foundation series, that is a wealth of media that they could go with. Or this is actually what started off with the Star Wars stuff, is it poked up then. There was such a wealth of material in the expanded universe that was crafted between the release of Return of the Jedi and when they started working on the prequel trilogy with Phantom Menace. There is so much material that was crafted during that period that George Lucas gave the thumbs up and approval for, and actually was incorporated it in with everything else and accepted it as part of the canon to that point. But what does Disney do? Oh no, screw that. That's Legends material anymore. It doesn't matter. We're going to create our own stories, which means we're going to rape and pillage the entire expanded universe for what we want and try to make it into something that it wasn't and do it in a horribly written way.
You mean like instead of Korriban, it's now Morriban?
Yeah.
I know. I feel the pain.
It-
Oh, speaking of which, do you like the name on my character? See if I might have to have my name displayed here. Hold on.
Well, that and with Google's wonderful image fidelity on some shit, it
Yeah.
is slightly difficult to read the text.
Nameplate.
Even
name
though I
oneself.
have you pinned.
This should help with it.
Let's see. Nope.
Oh,
And one barn?
Rowan Bean.
Oh. That would have been so much better if we could actually read it.
Yeah, I'd hope so too. But
Rowan Bean and Son.
But that's the thing, is there's so much material out there that hasn't been done before. But a lot of the studios are afraid to because of one reason. And I can kind of get it, but at the same time, I don't. Like, I understand the reason that they would give. We can't take that much of a risk. We can't risk this much money for a project that we don't have any reasonable expectation of it actually bringing anything back in, let alone breaking even, let alone turning a profit. And yet, how many mainstays have they done that have actually lost money lately?
How about in that case say, okay, you're actually a good creator. How about we just, you have a license lease here to make a movie. You have 5 years. We won't be spending any of our own money on it, but you get to use the license. And you get to keep a whole whopping 15% of the money you make, and we'll take the rest. But have something like that where, okay, Disney themselves do not have to take the risk upon themselves, if that makes sense. They let people use the license. They let people, if they're actually able to, use that in order to make a series, a movie, whatever, and just have it so that, okay, you can't actively interact with, say, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy. It has to be something that's a standalone thing. You can't rewrite the already established stuff. Okay, fine. Now you can make a movie and make it about Legends material. You can make something entirely new. And it won't be anything at all that goes against Disney.
that's the problem. Is Disney's trying to do that with this game right here? Is they're trying to make a movie or TV series off of it?
It's not like they have, 50 different books and how many fucking games they can make it out of. Are single player games and not, Old Republic ones.
Yeah,
I would love to see a fan's take on the Knights of the Old Republic series as a movie.
well, and
The
that's
way that they would make it. Mhm.
well, it depends, because some fan-funded, fan-run, fan-managed productions show a lot of promise and a fidelity to the material and the universe it's coming from that you're not going to get from a financially motivated venture.
Yeah.
Let's just look at the Axanar project for Star Trek.
Yep.
That was looking fucking phenomenal, and it was actually fitting in with the established canon of the show up to that point. But CBS wasn't getting a cut, and these guys are looking to actually make some money off of it, aside from it just being a fan project done for the love of the franchise. No. They're starting to profit off of it, and we can't have that. Never mind that it was taking all the attention away from Star Trek Discovery, because all the leaks between the two, it was the fan production that looked to be more faithful to the franchise and what people actually wanted. And rather than hey, you know what? Let's bring these guys on and let them keep going with the direction that they are, but give them an actual budget? No, no, no. That would have been too easy. That would have been a way to actually bring in new fans because it's actually good material while also not ostracizing your actual established fan base. But who would want to do something like that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, actually giving people what they want. Nah, no, we can't do that. I mean, if we start doing that, maybe they'll want more. And then you have to do more and actually get people involved in it that are interested. That's just so hard and such a pain in the ass.
I mean, it's like then they would actually have to have a competent writing staff, too.
Oh, we can't have that now.
But speaking of competent writers, we have another option here. We have another story that, for me, it was an easy decision on what story I would like to have seen brought to the screen. But I have a problem. I have a major problem. Because of my want to be as faithfully accurate to the source material, I have had a hell of a time trying to determine who should play the lead character. Now, I did give the hint that it is a Frank Herbert book, but it is from an obscure part of his catalog, one that not many people are aware of. The Dosadi Experiment. No, I am not choosing a book from the Dune Saga, not even one of the offshoots from it. This is completely standalone, and let me go ahead and send this over because it will be easier if one of you two present it. So I will post it there.
All right.
There is the front cover of actually the hard the printed version of it that I have. Now,
Give me a second. Get out of the way, downloader.
Move, bitch. Get out the way.
you know, I know some people who actually wanted to put that as their car horn. But here we have just the bit of the cover art. It is definitely sci-fi, but it is a different segment of it from Herbert. It still has flavor of fantastic stuff, but it was part of a trilogy that a lot of even his fans don't realize was an actual trilogy. It deals with an interstellar civilization called the Consentiacy, which is multi-specied, multi-galactic. So you're getting visuals of creatures that are barely recognizable as humanoid. One of the main species in this installation of the trilogy in this book actually seemed to be hyper-evolved frogs. And this is where it gets difficult. Because the main character of this book, which was preceded by Whipping Star and followed by the book titled I, his title is Saboteur Extraordinaire. That actually works for an intergalactic agency called the Bureau of Sabotage. He's an investigator who is actually familiar with the legal practice of this frogmen civilization that has become part of the galactic community. Now, this is why finding an appropriate actor for George McKee is so difficult. Because, okay, the name of the race of frogmen is Gawachin. Yes. Frank has a penchant for the names. But the Gawachin do not deal with many people outside of their species or a trusted few. And George McKee is one of the trusted few because when he smiles, he bears a remarkable resemblance to their frog god, who is known as the divine lawgiver Mareg. He is lauded and accepted by this species, by these people, because he looks like them and he gets along with their legal code.
So what you're saying is that as an actor for that, you'd need Sean Wallace.
Yes. Yes.
So he was one of the ones I considered, but I actually, the two that I haven't narrowed down from were actually both in one, the movie you guys watched on Wednesday, Gangs of New York. And I think you guys will agree with the difficult choice of the two just based on how the actors look. Anyone want to take a guess of which two I already have in mind?
I'm afraid.
Well,
I'm gonna have to look up the cast.
so going down the list of the billing of the cast of Gangs of New York, you have Leonardo DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis, Cameron Diaz, Jim Broadbent, John C. Reilly, Henry Thomas, Liam Neeson, which was the impetus for all the choices this past week, Brendan Gleeson, Gary Lewis, Stephen Graham, and Eddie Marsan.
Well, John C. Reilly would be on that list, I would assume.
He is one of them. The guy is an underrated actor.
He is.
He is a phenomenal talent, but he gets pigeonholed because of how he looks. Now, and here's the kicker. George McKee is a redhead in the book. So John C. Reilly would not have to change anything there. But given that list, who also is a often underrated actor, but phenomenal talent that could also possibly fit in with the visuals of the character as well?
Moran?
Nope.
Not Moran, Gleason.
Gleason, yes.
Yeah.
Gleason. It's tough between those two because in that part of the culture, Gawachins are very bureaucratic, very staunch on adherence to the law, almost to the point of being assholes, but not doing it for malice. It's just their culture is very strict, very hard line, which is why they don't get along with a lot of people. Can also kind of see why I get along with them, because it's very no. These are the rules. This is a line. Oh, you fucking cross that line, you're gonna pay.
I would suggest another actor, but it might not be one that you actually think of that often.
Which one?
And I would do anything for love.
You know what? I had considered Meatloaf. Because he has the visuals, but I don't think he could pull off the character.
Yeah, he's a very one-trick pony when it comes to his acting.
Which is why I'm leaning towards Gleason. But
Gleason would be a good one.
I and that's the thing is, you have this story, you have the entire story across actually all 3 books, where there's a lot of intrigue, a lot of positioning, a lot of manipulation. You have the investigation side of it. You also have the saboteur. You have that web upon web, the games within games. It is a very heady, very cerebral type of storytelling that you have to be mentally engaged and be able to follow the threads to really get everything out of it. Because that is... Ooh. Maybe. Chris Cooper is... Ooh.
Yeah. And he's not just a one-trick bad guy style actor either. Although he does get pigeonholed into that pretty easily.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, I wanted to go with an actor kind of unexpected because, yeah, you can have people who would probably want to go with the name draw of someone who actually has acting chops, like Brad Pitt or Denzel or any of the bigger name actors who can actually play multiple character types. But the thing with George McKee is he's very unassuming. He is actually intentionally unassuming because you don't want a flashy, memorable person to be one of your top agents in an agency called the Bureau of Sabotage.
Why wouldn't you?
I mean, it's almost like anonymity is your friend in that sort of thing.
Oh, come on now.
But
The Bureau of Sabotage, in charge of all infrastructure.
Why doesn't he just go ahead and call it CCP? Oh wait, did I say that out loud?
This is gets to be with this. There's such complexity within these, and I think that's the thing is, I rarely say it in this sort of way, but yes, I hate stories that pander to the ignorant. I don't want to watch something that is going to insult my intelligence. I will readily admit that there are times that, due to inattention or misdirected attention, that things can be missed. And some of my expectations and predictions of what are to happen can be wrong. I won't say that I'll never misread something, be it a situation or an individual. I am not infallible. But don't treat me like a fucking idiotic child.
Well, that's the fun part. Of course, the one e-reader I have here that I wanted to use to look up those books that I was talking about is powered down, and I don't want to plug it in because it takes 15 minutes for it to charge to where I can actually use it.
And what's that?
I wanted to read the description of Nicholas Flamel and John Dee to you guys from the book, but oh well.
Well, you mean they don't have something like that in the Wikipedia article about it?
I don't think they did. Usually the Wikipedia article didn't include did not include the storyline.
There is one actor that you haven't actually mentioned here, that Jared, that could potentially also be a candidate. That's the thing.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, again, see, this is the thing is, there were a number of options that I had that, you know, the face came up, but that is the difficulty of it, is trying to find a character that could actually portray the character admirably and actually faithfully. He might be able to, but there's another thing of it too, is I was also still keeping the description of the character in mind as well, and keeping that almost evolved frog-like appearance when grinning came to mind. So you would need someone who could actually give that more jovial type of big mouth grin when necessary, without it coming off as fake, without it coming off as disingenuous.
This is a bit of mix and matching, but Wallace Shawn with the cadence of Alan Rickman.
Yes. And that was the thing. I think that's what was throwing me for a loop, is that in order to get the perfect representation of this main character, it would have had to have been a mix. The talent of any of these, but with physical attributes of a couple of them. At one point, I even considered Danny DeVito.
I mean, I can understand that.
But he was too short of an option.
Yeah.
What about James Earl Jones?
Might have worked. That might have been one of the ones where I would accept a racial change because of the skill and ability of the actor and the way he could actually carry the character, the way he could actually fit into the role from a personality standpoint.
Also, smile.
Yes.
Because, okay, I'm going to try to find this one in particular. And all of these are fucking GIFs, and they're tiny. It helps me not at fucking all.
So, so those who might be wondering why I wanted to go with this story, specifically starting in the middle of a trilogy, I finally found the best way to give the crux of it without giving too much of the story away. Now, there is another character that would have to be accounted for. Yeah, see, that's where he would fit. He could be an option. I might actually... You know what?
Because he really does have that kind of smile.
He has the smile. He's been able to pull off a number of different roles with different personality types. I think he could actually pull it off. And he is James Earl Jones was enough of a nerd that he probably would have actually read the book and been able to come to his own view of things and be actually recognize it and actually work with the director to make sure the project was done right. But so for this story, the crux of it, what actually brings this saboteur extraordinaire into the story. Generations ago, a secret, unauthorized experiment by the Gowachins was carried out with the help of a contract with a different race, the Calibians. They isolated the planet Dosadi behind an impenetrable barrier called the God Wall. On the planet were placed humans and Gowachin with an odd mix of modern and old technology. The planet itself is massively poisonous, except for a very narrow valley containing the lead city, Chu, into which nearly 89 million inhabitants are placed under crowded and terrible conditions. Installed as a rule of a dictator, and many forms of government being tried and failed, there was a group called the Demo Pool that, or Demopol, that was infiltrating things and messing up the experiment. A computer system was used to manipulate the populace without their consent. The cultural of ordinary day-to-day power in Dosadi is violent, to say the least. Among the tools used, addictive psychotropics and genetic manipulation.
So it's kind of like Detroit.
With a populace. Again, you have a lot of headiness built in to analyzing a fucked up situation, and McKee is charged with getting to the bottom of it. Now, where? Okay, so in this, there's another crucial role that is actually on the planet of Dosadi. Kelia Jedrick, human native of Dosadi, with short black hair and icy blue eyes. Again, I'm torn, and I already have it narrowed down to 2 options.
And they are?
Kate Beckinsale, circa the first vampire movie she was in. Underworld.
Oh, yeah, the Underworld.
Or Ava Green. Because the character of Keela is not an entirely peaceful one. That computer manipulation that was fucking with people was put into the system by her. But things progress between her and Mr. McKee to where they end up developing a bond, and they take the bond to a whole different level where they could quite literally swap bodies through technological means. And it's through that swapping of bodies, swapping the consciousness, that McKee is able to smuggle Keela off of Dosadi. So you could see where, with just that bit of needing to portray a cunning, deceptive, yet intriguing and enticing woman, there's not many others I can think of who could pull off the look with the black hair and ice blue eyes and still keep that personality going, other than those two.
I'm trying to find... Oh, what's her fucking name?
Name a role.
I can't remember. 70s, 80s. Had long black hair, usually a fringe, I think.
I'd have to know something that she was in to be able to help.
Yeah, I have a face in my mind. but not a name or a movie. It's just one of those. When you see it, you'll know it once.
With all the stuff that we've watched over the past year, I could see how that would be rather muddled and difficult to be able to pull the name out of the ether like that.
Okay, is this okay? Who the fuck is this?
Because even thinking more about other potential options, like Sandra Bullock came to mind, but was too girl next door, too wholesome, you could say. We want someone who can actually give off the bit of air of, I'm not exactly who you think I am. You may not be able to trust me completely, but we're going to have a goddamn good time finding out.
Winona Ryder.
Maybe.
Because she's had a bit of a...
checkered past?
I was more thinking a bit of a change in how she's even being presented in different shit. Where's the thing? That's the thing. So you kind of do have the entirety of the spectrum already there.
True.
But she hasn't got blue eyes.
Yeah, or
And
at least light enough
like
eyes.
Elijah Wood.
Yeah. She definitely does have some acting chops, but... See, and that's where even... There are a number of actresses who are actually good technical actresses that just... There's something off. There's something about seeing them in a role that I can't see them as this character from the book.
Would you be okay with them changing the hair color, as in just dyeing their hair?
Well, yeah. If that's the thing with, Kate Beckinsale is not a natural black hair, but I could see her pulling it off.
In that case, I have a suggestion. Linda Hamilton.
Combination of her and Gleason? That would be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, because if you look at her, she is good at acting, both composed and just like she's doing her own thing, and borderline fucking crazy and fanatic.
But I was thinking more of a, shall we say, calculated insanity, for lack of a better term. A much more thought out and reasoned and tactical implication of the evil side is more how that character comes off. It's not an emotionally unhinged. There's a lot of forethought. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of rationale that goes into the decisions being made.
So more along the lines of Sandra Bullock.
A bit, yeah, but to me, she doesn't pull off that even occasional bad guy thing quite well enough to me. But Kate Beckinsale and Ava Green, on the other hand, they can play that muddied character. they can easily play that, yes, I have a bad side to me, but if you're on my good side, oh, I'll make it worth your while.
And having Green's eyes creep me the fuck out.
I think it's the face around the eyes with it, because she definitely has that evil temptress look to her when she wants to. I think that's why she fit in that role of the second 300 movie very well, because her look is what really got her to solidify the role. She could play the personality. She could be that vengeful, for lack of a better term, bitch in that role. But what sold it and solidified it into it being believable is her look. And that's kind of what I'm going for. And what I have in my mind is that being able to fit into and portray that character in all aspects like that, actually have the character come off as a completed icon of that type of bit of the story. Then again, I am a fan of method acting because it tends to come off as the most true and effective without being over the top, unless it's actually part of the character, like Heath Ledger's version of the Joker.
Oh, come on, there's nothing over the top about that led him to do things.
That is the one thing I hate about that movie and that portrayal of the character. That's a dangerous role.
Prime.
That is a dangerous role to play if you are that type of actor, that type of person, because getting to understand and look inside the mind of insanity is going to reach back out and touch you. It's that whole thing of, if you stare into the abyss long enough, the abyss stares back into you.
Well, there's even some, not to sidetrack us onto the world of comics, but there are some that believe that the Joker is not actually insane. He's just super sane to the point where he just understands the world a little bit better than everybody else.
No, his hair's green, not blonde. But then you have, well,
Jack's
my favorite movie Joker.
You know what? Jack pulled off that role a hell of a lot better than expected. But at the same time, I will say that his portrayal worked in that movie. But when you put the Joker into a different era of Batman, that portrayal wouldn't work.
No, exactly. That's one of those things where I really wish that Batman would go back to being more
camp.
Yeah. Because right now, everything with Batman, everything with Superman, everything like that, it's just so fucking serious and dark. Jack Nicholson in that Batman, he was, I'm going to say, as bad as, if not worse, than Heath Ledger in the new ones. Oh, yes. But he was as bad, if not worse, as Heath Ledger in new ones, but in a different way. Because this Joker, he was laughing, he was having fun, he was having a fucking gaff. And then he just straight up shot someone. And he just kept going as if nothing had happened. He was ruthless. He killed people left, right, and center. He did not give a flying fuck. To him, it's all just a laugh. And he knew that everything when it comes to Batman, he would have to put him down to stop him. It wasn't unhinged in the same way that Heath Ledger is, or the non-Joker that Leto has been so far. He was calculated, but at the same time, he wasn't all there. And I feel like, at least in the camp version and well, my favorite portrayals of him. That's been the best portrayal on the silver screen so far of the Joker, and really just encapsulating how the Joker doesn't actually, he doesn't react to things in the world the way that you would expect. He doesn't really see the world as other people do, and he's well fucking aware of it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I was so disappointed with the portrayals that we've gotten from Leto so far, because Jared Leto is not a bad actor. The dude actually has the potential to play a role exceptionally well, and this is where I think a lot of the direction and the vision of the Joker in the latest couple movies have been the problem. Not his portrayal, but what he was told and what he was referenced as. This is the way we're going with it. I think that's where the mistake was made.
Yeah, one thing I think that people kind of tend to forget is the Joker doesn't want to really kill Batman. He doesn't care if he kills a Robin or two, or whoever the fuck else. But he needs the Batman. He needs his counterweight. And that goes both ways. Batman needs the Joker in order to keep himself, well, sane. They've gone away from that. They've more gotten into the Joker is a villain. He isn't really a complex character. He might be random, he might be mystical, but he isn't actually complex. If you look at something like the animated series, the Joker would happily go fucking toe-to-toe with anyone. Mash him in the head with a crowbar. But if the IRS tells him that he owes taxes, he's gonna fucking pay the IRS. Because they can fuck your shit up. They'll put you away for real, not just into a fucking insane asylum.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame when you fuck with the government and its money. And also, that was another portrayal of Joker that I absolutely adored. I the way that Mark Hamill could just by voice alone complete that character in that way. This is where you really do have to look at the entire package when you evaluate the performance of any character. It's not just the actor. Yes, to a point, an actor can make up for a poor script or questionable writing and questionable direction. But if you give an actor with the talent the opportunity to embrace that talent and show what they can truly bring to the character, which is the mark of a good director, if not a great director, is actually getting that out of the actor as well. When you have that combination going on, you get those sorts of iconic presentations. Yes.
Ain't that the truth?
But it's also something that, in order to have a good Joker, the Joker needs to be... He needs to have set lines. He needs to be crazy, but not insane. He's a very calculated character in his own way. It's not that he doesn't have rules. It's just that the rules that he's got are written backwards in windings on some fucking piece of paper that's been hidden somewhere and then shredded and put together the wrong way. He does have them, but you don't know what they are.
Yeah, he has rules. They're just a different set of rules. And
I just feel...
Well, and I think that's the thing that I hope it's not just a one-off. I hope that what they put into the Schneider cut of Justice League with the Joker, they are getting more towards that, because Leto's portrayal of the Joker in that dream sequence, that vision of the future sequence, fit better with the actual rest of the iterations. It wasn't as much of a departure. It still, in that instance, he actually seemed like the Joker. Yeah, dude will do some fucked up shit, but there's actual thought process behind it. There's actual realization. There's actual, oh no, that guy's fucked up. There's that line of, of all the things we've done and all that we've put each other through, that's a line I can't cross. And having that sort of moment from the Joker in that situation that was happening in that scene might actually give that character a little bit of a chance. But they have to handle it appropriately.
They have to make the fucking movie too.
Yes.
I think that's going to be the worst part.
I mean, at this point, with how much they've referenced it, because there have been, at least half a dozen references to the Killing Joke now? On the
yeah,
they're gonna have to do it. They are going to have to put that to film in the next couple of movies. They've set it up way too much. It's not a question of if they're going to do it. The question is when and how are they going to handle everything around it.
Oh, tomorrow's Global Rick and Morty Day.
Why is that a day?
I don't know. It's just on HBO Max.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that one. Don't get me wrong. I do like Rick and Morty. I do enjoy the show, but oh, really?
So I'm gonna have fun watching soon.
They got. Alrighty then. Well, we are doing Boondocks right now on Anime Mondays. So we might just have to go to something like this after.
Do we start with the animated series?
Oh, if we're doing any animated superhero stuff on Mondays, we gotta start with that.
Fun fact, though, the person who made the theme for the animated series is the same person who made the theme for The Simpsons. And the same person that's made a fuck ton of other things or themes too. And also, he was in a band. And that band has a song called Little Girls, calling out the hypocrisy of rich people being able to walk down the streets with at least 9 fucking underage girls and no one caring about it. Yet for some reason, that song got a lot of flack for telling people that this is shit that happens.
He also redid the scores on several Star Wars movies, and why he's hated for that too.
Why is the name on the tip of my tongue, but I can't say it?
What's this? There's powder everywhere.
Yup. That's exactly who I was thinking.
That's the one.
I'm like, I know who you're talking about, but I want to make sure I'm right.
That's the one.
Although, you know who did the theme for the Rugrats, right? He's in a band. Their claim to fame was When a Problem Comes Along.
Do you really have
from
to fix
Devo?
it?
Yeah, it's Mark Mothersbaugh.
Interesting.
Yes.
But you know what? I think I might just have a question that will really set us up wonderfully for the next non-Trek is gonna go. And you know what? We can blame Leon for this one. Well, you brought up Danny Elfman.
Yes.
There's another.
Oh God.
There's another famous Elfman. So it really is going to be a
I
question.
have a bad feeling about this.
It's just a question for everyone to consider. Who is the better Elfman? Danny or Jenna?
Poor.